I know that I've been shamed for pivoting. I remember when I was,
Not shamed.
Yeah, 100%. The specific word that this person used to describe me was a wasted talent, because I was making a career pivot. They didn't know what the career pivot was, but I remember being referred to as a wasted talent because I was leaving what I was doing to go into something else. And when I started to speak to the person a bit more, then they approved of my career pivot.
Approved?
Yeah, they approved of my career pivot, and therefore, they retracted their statement. But I say all that to say that people are going to have their opinions of you regardless. I was going to do what I wanted to do anyway. You just asked me in conversation what my plans were, and I was being honest and open. Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Advice with Alex and Friends, the podcast. I'm your host Alex, and I'm joined by my beautiful co-host Novella.
Hi guys.
And today we're talking about all things pivoting. I am the pivot queen. I boldly accept that title. And what I want to reflect on is how and why to pivot in your life, in your career. Mm-hmm. I think for me, it's all about I can be whoever I want to be, whatever day I wake up.
Oh.
I don't have to be married to this idea of myself. So for the longest time, my identity was having a particular profession, right? Like, for example, being a teacher. So then, okay, what do you do when you're not that person anymore? And I think it's different when you move out of a career intentionally, because you know what, I've served my purpose here and you want to move on to something else. But what about if you lost your job? What about if being in that career was no longer feasible financially, or just in terms of progression, you just felt stagnant and you had to move on somewhere else? What I don't believe in tying who I am, my identity and all of that into any aspect of my life, because that can change. Yeah. It can actually change. So I'm happy to pivot. I'm happy to review, okay, is this working for me? Can I be better? Can I do better? And going for that. So just because I'm a particular job title today, or just because I'm doing a particular thing, or I have a particular hobby or interest today, it doesn't mean that's going to be the same thing that I'm doing 5-10 years time.
I love that.
From now,
I love that, because I've been feeling like this for a long time, just around, your manager asking. My manager keeps asking me, Novella, you need to tell me what you want to do. Where do you want to be and what do you want to do this, so I can support and help you. And it's difficult because sometimes, one, I just don't know. It's weird sometimes. And two, our CEO, one said this a couple of weeks, and this so resonated with me so much. And it was just around people asking around kind of, what do you aspire to be? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? It said, in 5 to 10 years, I don't know whether that job title exists right now, because in 10 years time, the world would have changed. So what I would be doing now would be something completely different there. Or maybe that role hasn't existed yet. It's in the works. And I actually live by that mantra now. It's just it's great. I feel like you're kind of, conditioned that, this, that, you need to know what's your 2-year plan. And it's just sometimes, bro, I don't know. And I feel like that right now. It's just right now, I know what I want to do. I just don't know how to express that in a way where you guys see it as a job title. I know bits of the aspects of works that I want to be, but I don't want to be tied down to doing that one thing, if that makes sense.
No,
and I said,
hear
I don't know what in 5 years. My job title, as I say now, my job title in 5 years' time doesn't exist. Because I don't know where we're going to be in that world.
That's so true. It's so true. And I think people forget as well, even if you were to stay in your same area, right, of work, or in your same profession, you can make side steps, or you can go up, or you can go down. And when I say down, I mean in terms of depth. So in terms of being a subject matter expert as well. So there's loads of those different areas. And sometimes you like you said, you don't know until you become exposed. You start doing something and you really, you really enjoy it, and then you're like, hey, actually, well, this is the line of work that I want to do. I really enjoyed doing this particular thing. That's the route I want to go in. So that kind of old school way of thinking where people did the same thing for like 30 years. For some people that is true, but for a lot of people it isn't, because variety is the spice of life. If you can, why not? And people are realizing that, hey, I'm a multifaceted person, and I want to feed the fact that I'm a multifaceted person. And constantly do things that pique my interest.
Absolutely.
And that can align with your work, your career, and also outside of that.
Outside of your career. Even when I look at, for instance, I work in HR. When I look at what HR was, okay, let's say about 20 to 25 years ago, the role I do now did not exist then, because HR was so very small, limited, very, very paper pushing, all of that. And it has, I guess, depending on the organization you work with, it has expanded so much now when there's so many different aspects. When I look at our team, and it's just so many different people, because there's so many different specialisms within HR. And so when people are like, oh, HR, I'm like, what part of HR do you work in? Do you work in business partnering? Do you work in operations? Do you work in reward? There's so many,
the finance aspect.
Exactly, that people forget. So it's just like, if you look back as well, you look back at where you are now, and you look back, if you're able to maybe ask someone 20 years ago whether that role existed, they probably would say no. So how? So it brings you back to that question around kind of like pivoting, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I know that I've been shamed for pivoting. I remember when I was,
Not shamed.
Yeah, 100%. The specific word that this person used to describe me was a wasted talent, because I was making a career pivot. They didn't know what the career pivot was, but I remember being referred to as a wasted talent because I was leaving what I was doing to go into something else. And when I started to speak to the person a bit more, then they approved of my career pivot. They approved of my career pivot, and therefore, they retracted their statement. But I say all that to say that people are going to have their opinions of you regardless. I was going to do what I wanted to do anyway. You just asked me in conversation what my plans were, and I was being honest and open. I could have chosen not to, but I chose to do that. So, people are going to do that. And I don't regret any of them. I don't regret any of the versions of the careers I've had, interests I've had inside and outside, and how everything has just kind of tied in. Because sometimes in the moment you don't quite understand everything. But when I look back, every single role I've ever done has helped me to be efficient in the role that has followed on after, and so on and so forth.
Same.
So if I think all the way back to my retail, my Debenhams days, to now, everything has helped shape and mold me into the person I am today. And, I feel a confidence when I show up to work these days. I feel like I'm really in my element in terms of advocating for myself, in terms of saying who I am and the way in which I've set myself up at work. Because I know that for me, going into a new field, at the beginning, I kind of felt a bit like, oh, I need to find my footing, I need to find my place. And for me, that came with silence. But you can be new and still be vocal. But I didn't think...
silence or silence?
Oh, my gosh. Well. Discussion for another day. But yeah, I definitely was, I was mute to a lot of things. I just thought, let me just keep my head down and endure. And there was some character building there, but ultimately, no matter where you go, if you're new or you're more experienced, you should always feel like you have that voice. And part of having that voice and advocating for yourself is saying, hey, I've had enough of this. Or I just want some change, or I just want to do something that's going to help me to continue to grow. I don't feel like I'm growing in what I'm doing at the moment, so that's why I'm making this change. And that's always what it's been for me. I've always known when it was time to leave my exit. And
I'll never forget as well when you were coming back to the UK and you were like, no, Novella, I'm done. You were like, Novella, I am done. Like, I knew it. I am over this. Like, I've got a feeling. I have a feeling. And you like stuck it out for a little bit. You're like, yeah, no. I am done. Like, I need. This ends now. Yeah. And literally between you saying that and coming back for such a short space of time, I was like, yeah. Alex said, yeah,
I'm done. Yeah, said, yeah. No, I say all the time, like in terms of my exiting teaching plan or strategy, I wasn't successful. I wish I could say, it was just, I made my mind up that I was going to leave and that was that. I did run back at certain points because, things didn't quite pan out how I thought that they would pan out. But I knew that I didn't want...
That was a short-term thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was short-term. I was running back temporarily and I would just get frustrated all over again. Yeah. So you kind of have to have that moment where you're like, okay, what can I do? And I was waiting for that moment to find my thing, right? There were certain things that I thought were my thing, but they didn't quite work out. And then once I found my thing, which was project management, it just all started to make sense. And so that's why I'm very passionate about the content that I put out, on TikTok regarding that career switch, because I think half of the battle is knowing it's not that people don't want to make career pivots or change or that kind of thing. They just don't know what they're going to do next. And especially when you've been doing it for a long time, you just think, oh, well, what else can I do? And this is why it's very important for you to separate who you are from the career. Look at your strengths. I think one of the best gems that I ever got was look at what your values are. So online, and I'll see if I can find the link and I'll literally link it down below or put it in the description box, is a link to a values test. So I did the values test and it came out with like what my top 5 values were, and one of them was freedom. When I tell you that I need to feel free, I don't like to feel restricted. I don't like people to be like on me. No, I don't like that, and in teaching, it's one of those high pressure, low control jobs. So naturally that was very, frustrating for me. When I did feel freedom, I loved it. But when I didn't, which was often, I didn't enjoy that aspect of things. So freedom is a very big thing for me. And I can't remember what the others were. But you can find, once you know what your top 5 values are, then find jobs that align with that. So again, going back to mine and freedom, I knew I wasn't going to take a job that was going to be really restrictive with me, that was going to have lots of assessments. Like we had assessments all the time. You have people come in and now that I'm out of it, I realize how crazy it is that somebody comes into your classroom and they assess you and tell you based off of that lesson whether you're good or bad. Nobody does that.
No.
Where I'm working. No, nobody does that. No one. And it's a slap in the face to teachers. It really is a slap in the face to teachers.
You're being judged on one lesson.
Thing. Yeah, one lesson.
That determines.
Basically. And then they look back through the kids' books, but again, anyway.
Yeah, you digress.
I digress. So, I think it can be quite difficult when you don't know what to do next. But once you know what to do next and it aligns with what your values are, then you will never feel frustrated in the next thing that you're moving into. So, for example, if you know money is a big value for you, then you need to go into a job that's going to pay you more money.
Absolutely.
You can't sit here and say, oh, well, if money is a value, like you're on top 1, 2 or 3 value, then that's something that needs to be factored in for you.
And it could be even like even if you're not career switching and let's say you're just looking for another job, whether it's internally or externally, like at work, like when we're like coaching managers, and I created this career toolkit at work where it's about kind of like asking yourself particular questions, and it's like a bit like a test. It's a bit like you mentioned around the values test, and you add up your score, and if you get a particular number, like I've got some prompts as to what to do next. So either it could be like You know, if you're, I don't know, if you're scoring an 18, and these are like your lowest scoring areas, it's just like, okay, what are some of the things that we can do to support you in that, and the other. But then there's really honest things in there, and it's just like, you know, if you're really, really unsatisfied, maybe it is your time to move on from this job. And I feel like it's being open for businesses to be like, sometimes you've served your purpose and you need to fly your wings and go. We can't, you know, sometimes promotions within, we can't promote everybody, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes, sadly, you might go out, but maybe come back in again and stuff. And it's just around, like you said, it's always looking back and looking at like where you are right now, where you want to be and what you want to do, and the steps that you have to take to get there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, unfortunately, it's not in that particular place. Or it could be, I don't know, like a sideways moves into a different team.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might give you more exposure or whatever. So it's around kind of, you know, different things as well.
Yeah.
I know that was for me more my story. Like when I moved, I sideways moved in HR. Because I was in one function and I wanted to get more exposure in another, although it wasn't technically like a step up, it was like a sideways move because of what I wanted. I wanted more freedom and more autonomy in my job, which I wasn't getting.
Yeah, that was my other value.
Yeah, autonomy. Yeah. I want to just do stuff. I don't want to have to wait for this person to say, okay, this is that, that's that. I just like to do stuff. I love creating stuff. I like creating templates. I like creating things, you know. So for me, it gives me that freedom. So that's what I enjoy doing. So then it was just like, okay, where could I go? I didn't necessarily want to leave the company, but where was it internally maybe that I wanted to go that could kind of support me in that? Yeah. And then you can then look around and you're like, okay, after a couple of years, okay, what's next?
What's next? Yeah, I agree. I think also it's about like, just in general in life, like feeding your passions. You know, a lot of people have it in their minds that, you know, oh, life is kind of like, life just happens to you, and it's like, it really doesn't. You can be really intentional about the life that you want to live, and so you can find fulfillment in your career and outside of your career, with family, with friends, with your own special time. I love it when I hear people doing things like solo as well, solo traveling, solo concerts, solo dates, solo, you know, whatever it is.
I wish I could.
Why do you say you wish you could?
I don't know why. I don't like my own company.
Why? Oh my God.
So bored with myself. It's funny you say that because, I'm going completely left. Like I remember like this week, I was in the house by myself for a couple of days. I absolutely hated it. I was like, this ain't it. Like, this ain't it. Like, all the things that I thought I would enjoy doing, like, for instance, like having dinner by myself. I was just like, this ain't it. I was just like, okay. Everybody, okay, you've made your point now. Everyone come home now. Let me hear a little bit of rustling, a little bit of noise. Let me hear something. Yeah. But I don't know. But I've always wanted to do that. I said it's on my to-do list for this year to do either a solo trip, solo day, or solo something. Just, I love it when other people do it, but I don't know why I've just never done it myself. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, I think for me regarding the solo life, if I can't spend time with myself, I can't be expecting other people to want to spend time with me. That's how I think. I think like you are the person that you've known the longest, that you spend the most time with, that you're with like 24/7, right? Yeah. So I need to enjoy my own company. Yeah. And I feel like if I don't enjoy my own company, I wouldn't expect other people to enjoy my company either, unless I'm presenting as somebody differently when I'm around other people.
I just don't understand how I can like my own company. Like, I find it so weird. Like, how, like, what is it? Like, Because if I'm going to be by myself, more times, the only thing that probably will happen is that I'm more likely to be more on my phone because I've got nobody else to talk to. That's how
you couldn't sit still, like, in silence?
No. Yeah. Like, for a little bit, like, enjoy, like, I guess if I was, like, somewhere, like, if I was out on a trip and stuff, like, walking. Like, I love, like, doing like solo shopping and all of that, like walking and everything like that. And like I would go into a cafe and like just sit down and chill.
So you do spend time with yourself then?
I do spend time with myself, yeah. I guess it's the whole, I guess I do actually. Yeah, because I do a lot of like solo, like going by myself. I prefer going shopping by myself than with anybody else. I prefer it so much better. But yeah, like, if I was to think about, like, even just spending, like, when I'm thinking about even, like, this week when I was by myself, like, by a certain time I was like, all right, I might as well just go to bed then. because what is this? But I hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I enjoy spending time by myself.
Yeah.
I feel at peace. I'm like, oh. You know, I have a sigh. I love it. Like,
but is that because you're a mum though too?
Probably.
Yeah.
But even going back before that, like when I lived on my own, like there was.
Yes, of course.
There was freedom.
Of course, that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, I
didn't
have a problem with living on. Like you literally just live your life for yourself. You just get up and go. Like now, when I want to do something, I have to consider two other people before I leave the house, right?
Of course.
But if back then I would just
get up and go.
Whatever. But I do think you have to be careful. Well, in my case, I needed to be careful to not fall too much into like being in my own world and being like doing my own thing, because what I did find was I was starting to isolate myself, and I did feel lonely if I'm being honest, because I wasn't actively like. I guess there was a point in time in the beginning when I was living by myself where I was on my own, but it was very easy for me to see people regularly. But there came a point where I wasn't seeing people regularly, and so it was very easy for me to kind of get caught up in my own world and be anxious and all that kind of thing. And I think now, so I know that for me, I journal daily, and that definitely helps me. And when I don't journal, I know I haven't journaled because I feel it. I feel it when I don't journal and when I don't exercise. So for me, I've come to accept that I am naturally an energetic person, and in order to help me expend energy, I need to work out, because if I don't, I will start like tapping my feet, like I get really irritable, because that's just, I need to release the energy. So if I'd go for a walk, I'd feel better.
Yeah.
And I think, and I know that within myself, I always feel good after doing a workout, even if I feel like, oh my God, those days when you can't really be bothered. And I'm not talking about the day when you need to rest. When you need to rest, you need to rest. Those days where I can't be bothered. There's never been a time when I've worked out when I felt worse afterwards. I always feel better. I always feel focused. I always feel like, okay, cool. And whatever. And naturally, I wouldn't feel anxious or irritable about something, because a lot of time, anxiety for me shows up as me being irritable. So when I work out and I let out that energy, it's like, oh, I don't know, I get the clarity. I don't need to focus on bogging myself down with things. And I tend to work out pretty early on in the day as well.
That's a good one.
So that's a good start to the day. And then if I get caught up or something happens, then I'll just go for a walk.
Yes. Love that.
So, you might not be anxious, you might just be energetic, and you need to release that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was, once I learned that about myself, I was like, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
So now that's part of the reason why I work out. I work out to not be anxious. I work out for vanity purposes.
Yes.
And I work out for focus.
For focus.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
So in terms of like pivoting, what's like a major pivot that you've made that you're really proud of?
Oh, shoot.
Oh, it doesn't have to be major. Maybe major, but I did too much pressure.
No, it's fine. It's a good question. I I think for me, definitely at work, like when we spoke about it just now, was just around definitely sidestepping, because I was getting to a place where I am very much a people person. And I'm someone, I just want to be out there and, you know, I like to make things better. Like, what can we do to improve this? What can we do to make better? And in the job role I was doing, it just wasn't possible to do that. So I just loved the fact that when I sidestepped, like, I feel like, and I got so much feedback, and it was just like, I can't believe that's the same person that used to work in that team. She was just like, this is your calling. This is what you're so great at doing. You just love, like, coming in and just changing things, and like everyone says they just love working with you because you just, as they always say, you just get shit done. I said, well, that's me. That's where I get like that's what motivates me.
Daughter.
Yeah, I'm an eldest daughter, of course. Yeah, like I do this in my sleep. I literally do this on my sleep. I carry my family on my back. So yeah, so that's definitely one that I'm definitely really, really proud of. And something, yeah, I really enjoyed doing.
I love that.
Yeah, how about you?
I feel like I've had multiple, if I'm being honest with you. I think for me, one thing I'll say that, like, my kind of pivot, I'm going to use my creative journey, to be fair, because I remember, like, okay, Advice with Alex as a brand is like 10 years old now. I remember when I first started, I started on, so I don't know if I've ever shared this story, but I started out on Snapchat, and, you know, I would have advice, and I'd draw, like, out little stick people and use lots of emojis and things like that. But I was really afraid to go beyond Snapchat because I was scared at the time that people that I didn't want to find me would find me. And then pivoting into the podcast 5 years later, and that was a great pivot. And I feel like it encouraged me to network, and at that time I was having like different guests on every single week, and that was great. And then now coming back again, you know, 5 years later and looking, and we've made a pivot now in terms of what we're focusing on, in terms of what we're talking about. It's not, you know, completely far off, but I really enjoy the journey in terms of where we are and the intentionality behind the podcast.
Yeah, it's nice that it's changed. Yeah, because we've changed as people.
100%.
Like when we think about some of the topics we would discuss back then that were important to us then, the topics that and where we are in our journey now, it's completely different. Right, we're in a new kind of era of us.
Better and improved.
Oh yeah. As Burna Boy said, tested. I've forgotten it. Yeah, but yeah.
I can't help you.
No, it's my favourite song, but I can never get the T's right. Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Sorry.
If you know the lyrics, drop it down below.
Yeah, sorry.
Right, so in regards to, I guess, pivoting, or just in general in terms of like decisions that you're making today, I suppose, that will align somehow in the future, because I think that's the key thing about pivoting, right?
Yeah.
You're making this decision today so that a future version of yourself is better off. Yeah. Right? And even if you don't understand how what exactly that's going to look like, you just know that you've got this conviction that you're going to do that. So for me, in terms of what I'm doing today to make sure that I'm making pivots and, you know, maybe semi-pivots on things like that, I think I'm just having this openness that anything can happen at any given time. And I think that's such a beautiful thing about life, that you make all of these plans and sometimes, you know, those plans get parked, or they get changed, or they get accelerated, all kinds of things. And I think for me, what I'm so grateful for is the person that I have become in order to be able to navigate life now, because right now life is really on acceleration, and I'm really grateful for like the work I've done to be able to handle this season gracefully, because previously, if I'd been overwhelmed, I would have fallen into really bad habits.
Yeah.
And I think even identifying that those habits existed and that I wanted to overcome them is really good. So I just stay open, like anything is possible, open to receive.
Yeah.
And know that I've got the tools to be able to handle it. And I know that one of those tools is me being able to ask for help and vocalizing, hey, I need help.
Yeah.
So there's that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's just sometimes you just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You literally just sometimes just don't know, but it's about being present on what you've got control over now. So using any experience or anything, I always say try your best, right? Before you're about to either make a big bold move or whatever, try your best to get as much out as you want as possible, not what they want, as you want. So make that a priority for yourself. So anything, if you're in a temporary situation where it doesn't make sense, take whatever you can from those experiences now that could help benefit you in the future. It might be difficult and it might be a struggle on you now, but like you said, you know, it's so nice to see from every aspects of your journey, you're able to take, okay, this is what I got from here, this is what I got from there, this is what I got, you know, but life is like a pick and mix. You add your jazzles, you add your Coca-Cola bottle, you add your Haribos, you got them for thingy, and it makes one big concoction, which builds you onto the person that you are today. Yeah. So yeah, just take little bits and thingy, and your future self, honestly, you're going to be amazing.
Yeah. 100%. Right. What has been your biggest pivot to date? What are you proud of in terms of the things that you'd decide, you know what, I'm going to leave this behind and I'm going to go on and pursue other things that make me happy? Share them down below in the comments with us. We'd love to read them and to feel, I think for me, one of the things that I'm really enjoying is like building a community. So yeah, I look forward to seeing regulars in the comment section. And did you, like myself, have people saying, you know, that you are a wasted talent or that you shouldn't be making that change? Yeah. Or have you found people being really supportive? And how do you also stay on top of navigating, pivoting, but still, I guess, maintaining certain relationships as well? Because naturally when you pivot, you change as a person, right? So how has that impacted your relationships? And if it has, how? Yeah, be interesting to know. Right, so guys, we're going to leave it there for this week. We shall see you very soon. Take care.